to me, so that people have discipline in themselves, how they do things, how they are going to lead their people, so that we have basically unity amongst each other and move forward. So I would basically not agree with politics being involved, because if we have politics involved, it means we have what the country is going through is actually what is happening in the university. It's like the same mirror. We are supposed to have something different from what the country is going through, so that when we are out of campus or out of our universities and go out there and maybe join different political positions wherever, be it district or any level, we'll be able to bring in new ideas, new ways that we shall lead the country in a better way. Yeah, that's my view. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Before you go, Ms. Lona, you say that you don't agree with the politics penetrating the university, and at the same time, you also said that the university is a breeding ground. We have that really want to be part of the future politics. And don't you think that the university is a breeding ground? Do you think that it's also their time for them to be grounded politically for their future? How best can we do Miss Lona, either? Did you understand the question?
No, please repeat the question. There was an interruption, so I didn't get what you were actually saying.
You said that you don't agree with politics penetrating the university. At the same time, you say that university is a breeding ground for students to understand a lot of things. Now, the question is, don't you think that some students that are looking at politics as their future breadwinning item? How best can we do that? Because we need to ground them to be like others that are vying for other future aspects. So how best can we do that?
The best way we can do this is that, okay, me saying that politics should not totally be involved, it means that when we are done with university, you can still apply elsewhere, NRM, NOP, wherever you want, whatever political party. Remember, these political parties have their different ideologies, yes? So you will learn from there. There is on-the-job training. You will learn how to do things in their own capacities. And then you will also bring in your own views on how things should be changed, yeah? So training maybe in school, as universities normally have the leadership training, I think that those trainings should help us know how to handle politics and leadership, because those are two sort of different things in a certain way, so that when we are leading, we are not going to only make it that political parties should be a base or a basis rather for us to always bring in something on ground. Just like maybe, let's say in parliament, you find that the NRM more privileged than the opposition. We should not be having such things going on. We should have unity. Yes, let's give opposition their chance as well, because we are now one government when we are in that room or when we are leading people. It is not about whatever political party you belong to. Yes, So I think that with the trainings, these leaders can be groomed up well with the discipline, skills, and all that will push them forward in giving the country the best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Kawalalona, for that. Now, we have AK. I don't know the initials, but he's saying that the fact that universities are breeding grounds for future leaders, there should be a regulation on how national politics influence university politics. That question is trying to woos my mind, because how best can we do that? Yes, you say that there should be a regulation on how national politics influence university politics. And the producer is telling me that since we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, kindly show your videos so that we can have a clear image on how to do that. At this very point, I'll call upon Dr. Isaac Christopher Lubogo, who is a public speaker. I don't know if I have the locus to call out all his kind of dignities. I'll first ask for that before. But as we prepare to have him, we have, allow me kindly tell you more of the people that we have. We have the law just for all has joined us. Happy part of us. We have Nasimba Mariam, Julius. There are very many people that I cannot tell you right now, but I'll be able to tell you a lot. You can discuss in our chat room, and we shall be able to air out your views basing on in regard to the topic that we are discussing today. Dr. Isaac Lubogo, are you ready for the presentation? Kindly unmute your microphone.
Yes. Sir, I am all ears, willing to dispense whatever you probably want me to talk about.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. I was asking for the locus to tell the people all your dignities, but since you're here, mashallah, I'll talk about them after you introducing to us your profile. Thank you so much, and you're welcome to the symposium.
Thank you, sir. I am privileged to be here, and it's an honor, as always. Would you want me to continue, or you're still asking?
Yes, kindly go ahead. Continue.
Okay. Well, I've been hearing a few glimpses of what the arguments that have been propounded by the discussants this morning, and I think the question of debate of whether or not universities can be given the mandate, perhaps to remedy or to make a justification of their arguments in terms of their whatever pertains their university running orders or rules, is a question of debate, even up to today. This morning, actually, I saw a headline of there was a petition of some people who are suing Makerere University for stopping the guild elections. And whether or not this is prudent is another question of debate, like I said. But perhaps we can borrow from jurisprudence in terms of how we can be able to argue when it comes to matters of university politics. No doubt that, including myself, we're all excited about university politics. I participated in presidential elections for the Law Society while I was at university. I was lucky that I won. I did participate in another election for Guild. I was unlucky that I was cheated. I hear by 2 votes. And with all due respect, the man who actually propounded the cheating is actually standing for a very big office, but I will not mention his name. Anyways, so we can all argue left, right, and center in terms of what we need or one need to find out as far as repositioning, like you argue in terms of university politics. Perhaps the better argument would be whether or not it's a necessity and whether or not there should be perhaps a common standard for regulating university politics, as it were. I'm not sure whether that is probable based on jurisprudence. Number one, for starters, for example, IUIU, by the way, is perhaps the only university in the country that has an act of parliament that brings it into operation as a university. The others, like Makerere, UCU, are all under other tertiary institutions. But IUIU has that privilege. So it has its own chapter under the laws of Uganda. That makes it unique and distinct. So this is a question of debate when it comes to particular universities. Number two, I'll also be guided by jurisprudence. By the way, I'm actually looking at my book here, chapter 15. I make these arguments in chapter 15, where I argue the executive and religion. And some of the cases that I may invoke have to do with cases like Sharon Dimanche versus Makerere University. Probably some of you have, had an interaction with that case. Another one had to do with Kakaire Sadiq and Sulaiman Isota Magumba versus National Examination Board, UNEB and Fajil Mande. Then there was another interesting one that I think that recently that was presided over by Justice, my friend Justice Sekana, which had to do with the Bishop of the North, in terms of, again, issues to do with jurisdiction. But my friend Justice Sekana was a little bit elusive when it came to giving a decision. His argument was whatever the church was doing was a privilege of the church, and therefore other people didn't have the mandate to inquire, court inclusive. That raises the question of the dispensation of justice between state and religion. Like I said, IUIU is founded on an act of parliament. And this act of parliament is brought into resonance by particular bodies that are funding, perhaps from Saudi Arabia. So they have a privileged status. Now, that must be understood in terms of the arguments that we are making. Makerere, on the other hand, is interpreted to be a secular institution. Remember that? A secular institution. UCU, on the other hand, is interpreted to be a religious institution, inclined to what? To Protestantism. Ngozi perhaps is inclined to Catholicism. So we have these different higher education institutions that are coming up, but are premised on certain ideologies. And when you read the decision of Justice Sekana, in that case of the one that had to do with Reverend Charles Ode Okunya versus the Registered Trustees of the Church of Uganda, that argument was not well resolved by Justice Sekana. He actually eluded it and said, this is a matter of them because they are governing their thing, so they should come up with regulations that actually propound their ideology. Now, the question is, if IUIU, for example, is founded on jurisprudence or an act of parliament that is premised on enforcing and regulating Sharia law, should any other religion for that factor be brought into question? Can there be an infringement? We all know that we have freedom of religion as enshrined in the Constitution. There's no doubt about that. That's what I handle in chapter 15. But the question is, if these individual bodies, which are operative under certain understanding, and even as argued, the difference between Dimanche is because Makerere was a secular institution for all intents and purposes, as opposed to perhaps the argument that is propounded in this other case. So we see a leverage of situations, and Justice Sekana makes that right. Perhaps he wants to argue and say, these are premised on the arguments that people who have come up with their own thing, in quotes, who should be given the leverage and the opportunity to debate or set rules or conditions as they find fit. So that's something you must understand when it comes to jurisprudence. However, the argument is, in respect to the most recent debacle that happened in Makerere, with a loss of a student from UCU, does, for example, Makerere have the liberty to stop that election. In the event that there is an overbreach, a fundamental breach when it comes to taking away perhaps a right of an individual. So should these rights be non-derogable, to use that word, or should they be derogable? So the point, you must understand that every institution by law may be given those mandates. Okay, and the question is, this is my house, I'm going to govern it the way I feel like is prudent. However, as I said, if we find that there is an overreach, a breach, like it happened recently in Makere, a loss of life, should we just sit back and say, let the things take their own mandate? So these are questions, perhaps, as a jurist and as young lawyers, that should actually be resonating around your mind. The question of subjectiveness as opposed to objectiveness. That is something that we need to look at, perhaps, when it comes to the argument of these freedoms, as it were. So the question is repositioning university politics. My argument would be, whereas it is only fair and prudent to accommodate other differences, be political or religious, as it were, these, in my opinion, should be actually be subjective to the bigger desire of complacency to certain norms and justice, or principles of natural justice, as it were, so that whatever happens should be interpreted in terms of what is prudent, what is sound. Maybe borrowing a leaf from my book, Ubuntu Bulamanda Law, those arguments should be propounded on the ideology of Ubuntu Bulamanda Law. Is there Ubuntu Bulam? Can we see these eminent provisions in terms of what is I don't know whether it was intentional, because I see someone muting my voice. I need to know whether it's intentional or I've exceeded my time. In case it is not, I would like to be guided. I hope I'm still being heard.
No, Doctor, you still have a lot of time now, but the question here is, someone wanted to follow your conversation. Council Julius is asking whether the book you're quoting verbatim is Objection, My Lord. Which book was that? You said chapter 15. So he was asking, so I didn't want to leave him behind.
The book I am talking about is not Objection, My Lord. People have tended to fall in love with that book for whatever reason, but the book I'm talking about is here, right here. It's a very big book. It's a tome, perhaps. How many pages? It's about what? It's about 1,700 pages. It's called Executive Mandate, and I was referring to chapter 15 of the Executive Mandate, where we make arguments in terms, because let me tell you, everything that perhaps is happening today, we have written a little bit about it, because we have been able to see in the future in terms of these arguments that we're pointing today. But the debate before us is repositioning university politics. So I've made an argument to say that if there is a mandate provided by these institutions, I think they have the liberty to do whatever they want to do within those liberties, as long as these liberties do not overstretch or overreach or impose or perhaps diminish other individuals' rights. And I think those are the arguments that are brought about in Sharon Dimanche. Those are the arguments that are brought about in Sadiki. Those are the arguments that are brought about in Reverend O'Day as well. Although I know there was an appeal on Reverend O'Day, but the argument that propounded is very clear. And these are premises, as I say, that if an institution has got, their own legal way or their own ideals, as long as they're in consonant with the principles of natural justice, I think in the interest of the bigger entity of freedom of expression, if you like, should actually be a mandate of this particular institution. I know very many lecturers, for example, who don't belong to the Islamic faith, and they come and lecture for example, in IUIU. Many of them are ladies, doctors, and professors, but they have to subscribe to, the ideology of Sharia. They have to dress up. They have to cover their heads. So those are arguments we propound. When they go to Makere, they do something different. Are their rights being infringed on? Perhaps a little bit. But is it offensive? Does it go to the root? Does it affect them in the sense that it will diminish their ability perhaps to exercise their individual right or intellectual right? I think the argument is no. So that's the point I'm trying to propound, that whatever repositioning you want to argue, it should be in the argument of principles of natural justice, as it were. So, for argument's sake, as I said, I think universities should also have that privileged status of mandating whatever happens within their, their territories, as it were. In UCU, for example, you may not go with a short skirt. You may not go with certain dressing whatever, because of their strict code to certain disciplines in terms of their dressing code. In IU, you will never go there without covering your head, perhaps. And those are arguments we're proponing. But fundamentally, as I said, we have to make that resonate within the aspects of some constitutionalism, as it were. So, repositioning, yes, it should be repositioned. There are many things that are going to take place tomorrow. Today, it's a question of new or different parties operating in universities, or whether or not these parties can actually fund these particular individuals in particular universities. Maybe we've seen it happen in Makerere several times. We've seen the movement cadres or the other opposition cadres, FDC, if you like, coming up rightly, and the presidential party bearers coming and even supporting these individuals in universities. In other universities, for example, like UCU, once it happened, actually almost 2 years ago, a student almost was suspended because he was actually bringing in, I think, an FDC guy, to come and do certain things and rally and stuff like that. I'm not sure about IU whether those things have been vetted, but perhaps Chivuli campus, where I've had instances where guys have actually campaigned on tickets of FDC, even in Kumba, by the way, where actually the parties delegate and give these cards to these individuals and say, you stand on our ticket, and others have actually been denied on the basis that they prefer a particular individual. So those aspects, depending on your jurisdiction where you fall, as I argued in terms of the powers that these particular institutions hold, should be subjective to the bigger ideology or the bigger identity of constitutionalism and natural principles of natural justice, as it were. So repositioning, as I said, yes, it's going to happen. Today, we're talking about different political parties. Tomorrow is going to be issues to do with LGBT rights, perhaps, and students may come in and say, I have a right to put on an earring, even though I'm a male. I have a right to wear like a woman because I'm inclined to, that kind of ideology. What are you going to do? Are you going to suspend them? Are you going to stop them from learning? What are you going to do? Or perhaps if they stand, and I know instances, for example, in UCU, you find students outside the gate holding Bibles and preaching, on loudspeakers and stuff like that. So it's a good argument, but the argument, as I said, should all be condoned under the ideology of principles of natural justice, good conscience, in terms of service delivery. As I said, does what I do affect my neighbor so significantly that it would actually detail that person or deny him of his or her right? If it doesn't, then I think that person deserves a right to do what they are doing. That, in my argument, would be a summary of what probably I would like to say. With those few words, moderator, I would beg to sit and listen to a response to that effect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor, for that wonderful citations in the book of executive. The book I'm well versed with is Ubuntu Bulam and Objection, My Lord, as Council Julius was stating.
Okay, this one is called the Executive Constitutional Mandate, Demystifying the Fountain of Honor Presidential Overreach in Uganda.
Okay, fine. You talked about respecting the idea that universities have got ideologies, and you also gave us examples of different universities. You also gave us examples of different universities, and for that I accept that things are like that. But how best can we really teach these students that whatever they are going into is dangerous without hurting them or without creating a conflict between the administration and the students, or between the administration, student, and the party itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this argument calls for what they call intellectual pluralism, which lacks in many universities, by the way, with all due respect. Perhaps the only university that actually enjoys freedom of intellectualism is actually Makerere University, you know, because of the secularism, perhaps. I mean, not to say that secularism is good, but the argument of intellectual freedom. That's the argument I'm trying to propound. So without hurting one another, what do these two stakeholders or people who have a contract of service, social contract, the administration vis-a-vis the students, what can they do to harness, to promote, to encourage, to harmonize their relationship in terms of governance? I think each one should respect each other's mandate. Students have a right to study. They have a right to exercise their intellectual freedom. On the other hand, the lecturers or the administrators have a right to, you know, dispense intellectual information to these students, and it should not be subjected to their own ideologies. There are instances, for example, when a student may not agree with your argument, perhaps in terms of proposition, especially in terms of an argument. Are you going to chase them out of class because they disagree with you, or because they have an opposing ideology? You know, listen, perhaps intellectualism at university even captivates your minds and diminishes your ability to think. You know why? Because they tend to subject the students into the ideology of dogma, where you say only what I do, write only what I want. You know, when we're doing dissertations, students come up with topics, and then the lecturer tells them, write this way, do this way. And then you ask yourself at the end of the day, does this dissertation belong to me, or does it belong to the lecturer? That is, to me, a bit different in terms of how perhaps I would love things to do. Maybe that's the reason why people like Steve Jobs, people like Mark Zuckerberg, people like what's this guy, Bill Gates, walked out of Harvard because they felt their ideologies or their minds, or they are limited in terms of their understanding. And listen to the word understanding. Understanding is, the argument is that I'm reducing your concept of ideologies to a certain level, under, the word under, I'm using that word as it is, as opposed to overstanding. You know, perhaps these are the arguments we need to make. Universities are supposed to be centers of intellectual discourse, you know, in where people should come up with ideologies and churn them. You know, that is why in intellectualism, when it comes to university, the kind of arguments you propounded, or the kind of ideologies you propounded, should be actually based on what they call Bloom's taxonomy, or perhaps, to develop that a little bit further, what they call pedagogy, as opposed to andragogy, because pedagogy now brings in the argument of simply parrot education, where A is A, B is B, you know, that argument. Intellectualism should be able to say 1 + 1 is 3, not 2. If someone can convince me that 1 + 1 is 3 intellectually, and you make your argument based on research, I will agree with you. In other words, the argument of dogma should not be encouraged in university. There should be freedom of expression, freedom of intellectualism. And that is what's happening, not only in universities, by the way, but even in real life. I speak to lawyers, and sometimes I just can't imagine the level of ignorance of certain lawyers who depict themselves with ignorance, basic things. One of them argued with me and told me, "You're writing about witchcraft. Where are we going to apply it?" This guy did not even know that we had a witchcraft act. This guy did not even know that there are people like Professor Seidman who have written about witchcraft in Uganda before. This guy does not know that even witchcraft is actually done as an elective at PhD level. So you see how sorry our society is. Perhaps the argument in terms of repositioning university should actually be debunking the education system, because the education system we have today is so narrowed down to the ideology of the white man, by virtue of the inception clause, by virtue of the order in council, by the argument, even the so-called LLB we do, the so-called common law. Tell me about common law. Tell me about the arguments propounded by Lord Denning. So what? The question is, so what? Why don't you breed jurisprudence? Why don't you let jurisprudence develop in such a way? I believe in what Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, I think, was the rigor realist. The argument of jurisprudence should actually translate with society. There should not be that ideology of dogma in society, because then you limit the thinking abilities of an individual. I was coming from home over the weekend last time, and there was a kid who was trying to jump into the car, and the mother held him and said, "Let's enter the car." And the kid kept rejecting, and we were all surprised. We said, "What a nasty, lousy kid! This kid does not want to be carried by the mother into the car." But then later, the mother said, "Okay, you go down and climb by yourself." And the kid stopped crying and started exercising his right. I was like, "Wait a minute! Do you know that this boy, if harnessed and well, would actually grow into a mature man? Because he's being taught at this level. He knows he's rebelling against subjectivism. He's desiring to grow on his own, to nurture his giftings. The universities should be the center of discoveries. Universities should be the center of inventions. Tell me about the greatest inventions now. They came from universities, but the universities that, perhaps, by the way, I should make a distinction, because I think the ones we have in Uganda are simply upgraded high schools as opposed to being universities. That is and I think I could argue that too. Because when I argue universities, then I don't think any falls within the mandate of universities in Uganda. They are simply upgraded high schools. So with those words, my brother, I'll rest my case.
No harm, doctor. But the question at hand that I really need to put on much emphasis is Nampera also a learning student? It's also a council, learning council, I don't know. But kindly mute Mariam Nampera. Thank you so much for being. So, Doctor, the question at hand is, you've explained everything in broad, and the picture is clear. But the question here is, Her Excellency Nami Mbakhira talked about the issue of pushing political parties. For example, we had a wave of NUP as a party. It is sweeping away the political parties in universities. But if at all we bring a fan who is a poor leader, but because he's being supported by the party with a lot of energy, a lot of that can push a fan to become a guild president, and with time you find that a fan is incompetent of leading the students. Now, how best can we trim that? Because if at all, I've seen it in the 11th Parliament, whereby even a member of parliament cannot construct a statement or a sentence to tell the August House. So most of them were pushed by their political parties, putting in a lot of money. And because this political party wants to have a position in the country, that they have a lot of members of parliament. So you also look at this in this regard, that we are pushing a fan who is incompetent of leading, but because he's famous and because he's having a lot of support on ground, but when he is incompetent. How best can we try to de-associate that kind of vague relationship between having a competent leader, the party, and how it should be done in that kind of regard? That question is a bit wide, but I trust that you're going to answer that as we wind up the session.
I was actually trying to look for one other book that I wrote, which is called Treatise to My Learned Friend, the Attorney at Law. And I wanted to read for you a statement by a gentleman who said that if intelligent or if righteous men or if right conscious men do not write justice in black ink, then ignorant and foolish men will write it in ink of blood and illuminate their castles with their dead corpses. The argument here is that ignorance, like the jurists say, ignorantia non excusat, ignorance of the law is of no excuse. So the proposition that you are making in terms of whether or not these individuals who have actually, who are meager or poor, for lack of a better word, can actually be sponsored or supported by other institutions in terms of propagating their ideologies is, to me, a question that has, that is okay because it's fair in the circumstances. I mean, the idea of multi-party dispensationalism is also an extension of a right to self knowledge or to belong to a certain political party, which is enshrined in the Magna Carta, as it were. So these ideologies of the Bill of Rights, as it were, which enshrined from the Magna Carta, were ideologies that were proponent in terms of fighting for proposing or propagating ideologies of free thinking in society and stuff like that. So me, I wouldn't have a problem with that if an individual, for example, has a party he or she belongs to, and this party supports them. The danger with that is this. The danger with that is that they're what they call populism. Actually, there's what they call a demagogue, as opposed from a truly inspired person. Populism and demagogue are actually the same. The idea is that people have to make a distinction between what they call a demagogue and a person who is truly inspired. Because some people are actually opportunists. If you read books like King Lear, you may understand what I'm talking about. There are those who hide behind a king because they simply wait for the king to bite and they grab away whatever they want, So, I mean, there was a strip, for example, of my friend and former client, Bobby Wine, who came in with this ideology of people power, and it took the order of the day, and he came in with noob, and there was a dispensation of freedom in the sense that many people now discovered there was a way. Now, those who are wise in quotes, took advantage of that sweep, okay? And they ended up in parliament today, regardless of their academic qualifications. Okay, the argument they should be not less than senior 6. This morning, there's an argument that parliamentarians are going to make that you should be a bachelor's holder, degree level, for you to stand for member of parliament. But like I said, there will be those spaces that are going to be created. My argument in terms of poverty or lack of money, in my opinion, should not be a hindrance for someone's desire to subscribe to any particular office. Look at Ruto, for example, what is happening in Kenya. Ruto, his grandfather and father were paupers, basically, and this is a man who is actually might be even the president of Kenya as we speak today. They are tallying. There's incredible evidence that he may win or may lose at a very small margin, but he's self-made. So poverty should not be a hindrance to anyone's aspiration in terms of political ideology or ascription. I mean, His Excellency himself, he always tells those stories of where he comes from, how his father was, poor and stuff like that. So many of us probably come from those humble backgrounds. So, but the argument here is that should not be a hindrance in terms of your ascription to become whatever you want to be. I think Dr. King makes it right when he says a time is going to come when we're going to be measured by the color of our skins, but the content of our character. What is important is what comes out of you. So I agree with those subscriptions. I agree with those ideologies. And when it comes to political parties, I believe that these should also be given the mandate to exercise this. Listen, many of the political leaders we have today actually stood for those guildship. Mao was president guild president at where? At Makerere. The late former speaker was actually speaker. People like quite a number of people like I forget the lawyer's name. Even the former governor, okay, the one of Bank of Uganda, all those guys. So even Museveni himself, His Excellency President Museveni. So many of those guys who are running for president today have actually had their run when they are, in universities and belong to certain political parties. And by the way, even His Excellency, if you read his book of the Master Seed, makes his arguments that when he began with the DP, those movements that happen in universities, they were churned in Tanzania, for example. They were churned at that level when people were in university. So the depth of knowledge and the depth of the depths of wealth, in university is extremely important. So we should not be seen to subjugate or to suffocate these people's ideologies based on simply because someone does not believe in your ascribed party, as it were, or even religion for that matter. So me, I believe that whatever the case, people should be free to exercise their freedom. If you don't believe in FDC, I have no problem if you believe in movement or if you believe in new power or whatever you were, whatever party you want to belong to. Let it be green, let it be red, let it be white. The point is that freedom should never be subjugated to someone's ideology, because then in doing that, you're actually suffocating the intellectualism or the ability for this person to think outside the box and throw the box away. That's predominantly what the point that I always make and emphasize. I don't know if I've roughly talked about the things that you may have wanted me to talk about, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor, for highlighting on those issues and giving a clear image of what we might have needed in the discussion. My view about that is that IUIU made, I think I have a hand before I make my view. You kindly go ahead, Your Excellency, Mariam. Mariam, go ahead.
Thank you, moderator. I wanted to give my view about the question you raised of the aspect of popularity leading to maybe getting incapable leaders or incompetent leaders into positions of leadership in universities just because they affiliate themselves to political parties that are more popular than others. And I think when we are addressing that issue, we would have to look at how democracy works and how political parties work in that aspect. I must say popularity exists even in universities where we do not maybe have political parties. There is a candidate who will come and she or he is really popular among the students, and whether you like it, they will vote for him irrespective of his competencies. But what I need to say that this is something that is minor if we are discussing political parties in universities. When I said that we have to look at how political parties work on ideologies, which means that the people that choose to support certain political parties believe in the ideology and the ideologies that political party volunteers. And that means when we are looking at political parties in universities, political parties themselves usually conduct preliminaries. That means that it is upon the specific political party to determine the quality of leader that they send to represent them. You understand? So that means there will be sieving of who goes and who does not, which means if the political party determines that this person is capable, has the quality that they need to be the face of it, then that means this leader is in position to go and represent their ideologies, which means if the electorate, and when we come to that democracy bit, if the electorate determines to vote for this specific person, it's because they believe he's going to be in position to do what they want to do. So it gets back to the point that leaders are built. It takes time for someone to become capable. The moment the electorate determines that this kind of a person is going to be in position to represent their ideologies and their ideas, then trust me, that is a go ahead. And the other thing I would love to say is it still gets back to those students who believe are capable and they can do better than others, but choose to stand out. If you feel you can do something better and you choose not to come out, then trust me, a fool will lead you either way. So it is not something that we should really base on so much when we are looking at political parties and student leadership in that sense.
Okay, I think that also takes us to students' mentorship programs in universities, whereby how are we identifying the people that are leading us, regardless of their political affiliations or stuff. Thank you so much for giving us more light onto that. And I think university leaders should look at that with a very keen eye and keen interest, that they should focus more on students' mentorship programs, because when students enter the university sector, they tend to be a bit more bright than others, and they dub themselves mature to do that. But counseling and mentorship is very key. My opinion towards that is that I hear you hit a jackpot. I don't want to say that what doctor said, that most of the universities here are upgraded high schools. You know, most of the things that we do in politics are being imported from the outside world, and that's what we base on to also put on our boots to go ahead. And I won't be more different from you when you say that we much into the Western ideologies than ours here. But that's what we found, and I don't know how we're going to change it. We need a lot of time and maybe a lot of reading to change our minds towards those ideologies. I would like Her Excellency. Okay, Councillor Julius. Councillor Julius, you have a hand. Actually, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Let me first give thanks to my professor, Dr. Christopher Rubo, for a good deliberation, and also to honor also your initiative to organize such a political, I will not call it a university political debate, but I think it was time overdue, but nevertheless, still. So I would like to pose a question to you as to why the chat room is disabled and people cannot send messages. I think it is a technical glitch which can be sorted out. When it comes to political affiliations, I think a university is a university, as it is said by Professor, that it is a source of political intellectualism when it comes to the political mentorship. You'll give an inference, or I'll give an inference to the day-to-day political leaders we have today, that most of them were university students by then. And to now they are the political heads in this country. So when it comes to the university level, where we find that we have people who are above the age of 18, we have people who are 60s, we have people who are 50s, and these are mature people. So if someone goes to university, there's a presumption that someone is aged enough to resonate or to reason mature when it comes to issues that are personal and that are politically concerned. So now, I'll give an inference to the recent issue of Makerere, where I also took the initiative and I was also giving these deliberations and airing out these issues on different platforms. And now, you cannot stop political parties from entrenching universities. It will be an attempt, and it will be a conflict with the Constitution. If you look at the dispensation, I'll go direct to the 2005 amendment of the political parties, the case of Semogere and the Zako Room. If you look at this now, if the Constitution gives a right for political affiliations, it does not spot out at what age or at what level of education, which category is supposed to exercise this. So the law is not blind that it was considering people outside the university. So I think this will be defilement to the political party discussion if the government or other stakeholders try to interfere with political party affiliation in universities. But however, it should be the government should put down the regulations that are governing this. For example, we have at IU, and I can assure you, we had political party affiliations. I myself was affiliated to a different party, and even the current leaders, they have political affiliations. That's the way it's handled. You see, there's how it is handled. So please, this is a significance. Students have political party affiliation, have political party attachment. It is a significance that at least we are now moving forward from the political party dispensation. So I think the problem is not about the students or the university. The university is brainwashed, but a bigger extent also goes to the government. You know, the reason that's why the issue of Makere was so much politicized that the issue was because the NUP candidate and the FDC candidate we are the one almost taking the office. If it was NRM, then it would be the same case. So I think the government is also brainwashed. It should come out and regulate hand in hand with the university and see that at least if elections are going on, they should be guided, but not to interfere with the political party affiliation. It will be an abuse. It will be an abuse of the rule of law in Uganda. So we are nurturing the political leaders of tomorrow. We should not wait for them to be outside the university, and then we should look out on how to nurture the same. So thank you very much. I think we should also be organizing the same. These debates, and the same can help the next generation as the younger leaders. Thank you very much. I wish you the best. Thank you, as Karubogo, our our mentor, academically, and also Madam Miriam and other organizers of this debate. Thank you very much. I wish you the best.
Before you go, Councillor Julius, the question is said that you talked about the government indulging in the system on how they will. I've recent, I think Professor Nawangwe was harmonizing the situation, and they were trying to bring in the ideas that I think they wanted online voting, and many people were and students were complaining and rioting that it's not okay for them to be in line with the idea of Professor Nawangwe of bringing the idea of online voting. So if the government comes up, but do you think there will be a conflict of interest, especially where political parties are? Remember, the government itself has got a political party. So if it comes up to harmonize or to give guidance on how politics should be handled in institutions, don't you think there will be a conflict of interest?
Yes, of course, the government is the governing body. You cannot deny that fact. Be it your NUP, be it your FDC. This is the governing body of all citizens in Uganda. So now, if the government can come out to regulate how these musicians can compose, they can be doing their businesses in schools, I think it can also use the same approach. Like the National Council, the National Council of Higher Institutions can regulate this. This is an institutional, this is an entity established by an act. It can regulate. So when I talk about the government, I don't mean NRM. No, I mean the government institutions like the National Council of Higher Education. It can regulate this. So now, and also regulating this goes hand in hand with security enforcement. Now I can assure you, I talked about this when I was appearing on different TV stations. Now, if we have security, and we have one police station which is almost near, and its establishment was based on the fact that Makerere University was established, being the first university in Uganda, and it needed security because it's what? national attachment. How can you organize? How can the university organize an election without enforcement of security? Right? You get my point. Now, if it was a riot, if it was something that it was not in tandem with university, like may say if someone was trying to riot, or maybe it from NUP from where. Now, that's when we say enforcement. But how can let students regulate themselves? How can you let students organize? How can you organize an election and don't put enforcement mechanism? This was the problem, and this is the government that is blameworthy. So we cannot run independently without government's hand. However, the government's hand should be in good faith. So I think that is one way of achieving this. So the government can, most especially the university, the public universities like Makerere, it is a government institution. Not like we can do our business, or where you can conduct its business without intervention. And now Makerere, and historically we know how the Makerere saga has been going on. So I think it was the negligence of the government, and the government is police and the Minister of Education. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councillor Julius. And, your explanation has proved to us that you need a leader, and that is very good. I would also like to note the fact that you were affiliated to a political party that I very well know, and you say that there is a way how to handle it. And that goes back to the regulation part. How do we as administrators regulate the kind of wave that comes into our universities based on the political parties? Are we looking for a show, or are we looking for what is supposed to be done? Yeah, as we wind up, I would like Her Excellency Namyamba Khairat Badil to give her last remarks towards the topic, the theme that we have tonight or today, repositioning university politics, as Her Excellency Namukwasi Mariam prepares to. Actually, let's start with Ms. Kawala Luna to give her last remarks, then Her Excellency Namyamba Khairat Badr, and then Her Excellency Namukwasi Mariam. Then we wind up with Dr. Lubogo. Ms. Luna, are you there? You kindly wind up with your last remarks in line in regard to our topic.
My last remarks will be that whether we have political parties involved in the leadership in universities, we should all have it in mind that when we join politics, whether we are in NRM, NUP, FDC, we are all going to just serve the country, not to serve a political party. So a political party should not be something that will really be the basis of our leadership or of how we are going to serve the people in the country. Otherwise, thank you so much for the invite.
Kindly come up. Kindly, Your Excellency Iga Ismail, you have a hand up. You can give us your view before we go to Her Excellency Namyamba Badri Khairat. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been following, and for the starters, Iga Ismail is my name. A former girl president of the Mighty Islamic University in Uganda, Kampala campus. You know, I'm good at giving concluding remarks, even when I've been not participating. But for me, according to this theme we have now, repositioning university politics, my view is that we do not have to ban political parties in universities, but we just have to put up regulations which are going to help our universities to avoid these chaotic activities. For example, I was present at the Makerere University when these people were taking on their final rally. Like, it was so surprising that you couldn't see any police personnel around or any security guard. Yet, you know, basing on the facts that university is a chaotic university, and to handle the students have to bring in the security personnel to at least prevent these people from turning chaotic. But there wasn't any police or any security guard to do that. Who is to blame here? I believe the government, as Council Julius has stated, the government and the university are the ones to blame because they have that duty of care to the students. So they've been saying all along that the Makerere University students have been engaging in chaotic tendencies, chaotic activities in and outside the university. So if this was sorry, the host has asked you to start the video. No, I'm sorry, where I am now, I can't turn on my video. Yeah, kindly bear with me. So I believe the university and the government are the ones to blame. Why? Because they have a duty of care, as I've stated, and Council Julius. Because these people are always in the university, they pay their tuition to be protected in everything. So we also have a police station in the university. I was so surprised that when I was moving to the university, I saw a police station, a very big police station, by the way. But when we went to the rugby grounds for the final rally to canvass votes for our candidate, which I won't say here, but I believe most of you know. Yeah, there wasn't any police personnel. So we have to blame the university. And another thing, why do not have to ban these political parties in the university? We know most of the leaders we have now came from universities and they were spotted after being leaders. The examples we have of Honorable Norbert Mao, now the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister, the late Jacob Olanya, the Speaker, and so on and so forth. Even the President, when he's giving out positions, he bases on those people who ran on the NRM ticket in the universities. For example, we have our former guild president of the Mighty Islamic University in Uganda, Kampala campus, His Excellency Kamugisha. He's now an RCC here in Kampala. But if he wasn't subscribing to the NRM party, he wouldn't have been given that job. So I believe, in my own opinion, the government and the universities have to just regulate and see how to make things right. And also, we are skipping something. This Makerere University has whole brigades, not like other universities. You find that the North Quarter Hall has a brigade, the Mitchell has a brigade, and these people always do chaotic things in the university, but the university doesn't do anything about them. And when you look into the matter, the people who started the chaos were these people of these halls, the NRA and so on and so forth. So the university has to come up to ban these brigades in the university because they are the root cause of chaos and everything in the university. Yeah, and if you draw, if I draw an insight in the politics we have in Uganda today, these university students are the very people who participate in those political activities outside the university. So they are old enough to decide on what to do and not to do. So if they come in the university in their political parties, some subscribing to the NRM, NUP, FDs, and so on and so forth, it's their right. It doesn't have to be anything related to that. You don't have to infringe on their rights like by banning their political parties where they subscribe to. Just leave them and enjoy their rights, because that's the trend. Even when you go into national politics, the government we have today, sorry to say, you saw how they treated their candidates. So even one of the candidates, the FDC candidates, came to the nomination grounds without shoes. What a humiliating factor. Without shoes, subhanAllah. So what our government does, it what comes into play in our students at the universities. I think, by the way, I have a lot to say, a lot, because I'm always on political platforms, very many political platforms, and I talk a lot. But today, since time is not our ally, allow me to stop here by thanking you for bringing up this initiative. I thank our mentor professor, Dr. Isaac C. Luvogo. I like that man so much. I thank Council Julius. I thank you, Mr. Fan, and all other people who have participated in this debate today. Thank you very much and wish you a splendid day, unless you have any questions to pose to me.
You didn't thank your immediate friend from Females Campus. Kindly thank her.
Hey, I thank you, Honorable Mariam Namokose. By the way, let me also tell you this, that in 2026, inshallah, I'm coming as the MP much in the Sabagao municipality, and also Honorable Mariam, my best friend, is coming as the MP of Iganga municipality. Thank you very much, Honorable Fan.
You're welcome. I was telling people how your slogan worked during your campaigns of Kana Kambata. I think that will work during that time, when that time comes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much for giving us a very beautiful, brief, wonderful presentation from you. And the examples you cited are really valid. And whoever wants to really confirm, they're always there online. Your Excellency, Kairat Badru Namyomba, kindly give us your last remarks as Her Excellency Mariam prepares.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator, for this opportunity, and for the speakers who came after me. I salute you all. Thank you so much for such wonderful views as regards this topic we've been discussing today. And my closing remarks would be, I would sideline with what Her Excellency, the Mariam Namukose, had talked of, the political parties screening the candidates before actually giving them the cards, or before giving them the permission to work or to contest as regards their permits. In case NUP is sending in a candidate, they should have to first scrutinize, is he worthy it? Yes. And then also the politicians should also take concern of how to support these candidates. You should not carry His Excellency, like you should not carry Bobby Wine. Sorry, you shouldn't carry Bobby Wine to to the university, because how chaotic it's going to happen that side. Yes. And then one of the MP, Asman Basadira, also supported that top politicians should not go to the universities as supporting their candidates or the people who are holding their cards, because this looks a bit weird. As what are you trying to insinuate? Wait for your turn, wait for 2026, and then you should show your desires. Then the National Council for Higher Education has been so quiet as regards this matter. I believe this is the body that regulates and guides the higher institutions of learning, but what it can only do is to collect the National Council fee from the students. Ain't it observing what is happening within the universities? Can't it make a change? Can't it take a step as regards the chaos when it comes to the political seasons in the universities? I believe the National Council for Education also has a say as regards this chaos. And then maybe the university needs to employ more security, because Makerere University is a big university, but to my surprise, IUIU is a bit better than them, because we have like police stations within the universities. So I believe Makerere has to work on that, so that such chaos cannot or should never happen in the coming elections, inshallah. Those are my closing remarks. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for the platform, and thank you so much for the listeners and all the participants as regards this topic.
Thank you so much, Her Excellency Namye Babadru Khairat, for giving us such wonderful remarks and highlights about the facts of repositioning university politics. Council, Her Excellency Mariam, are you there? Are you ready to give us your last remarks? She's ready.
Yes, yes, moderator.
On.
I would like to conclude by thanking all the panelists being headed by Dr. Isaac Christopher Lubogo, our lecturer and mentor, for all their very insightful deliberations. And I must say this was a very quality discussion. And I would also take this chance to thank the moderator. Thank you for being an amazing moderator, together with your supporting team. And then lastly, our dear listeners for today's occasion. On regards to the topic today, I would say that for as long as we want to have students that are going to be impactful to the community when they leave the university, we have to give them the exposure and the room to grow, the room to discover and innovate, just like our Dr. Lubogo said. And if you, for the specific topic of leadership, if you really want your student leaders to afterwards become national leaders, then give them the room to grow, give them the chance to tap into the platforms or the environment that they are going to face when they leave school. There is no better teacher like first-hand experience. If I'm going to be a leader in the future and I'm going to get involved with political parties over and over again, let me experience this on my last stage of education before I transition to such an environment. So I'm always in for political parties in universities. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Your Excellency, thank you so much for that. And you know, we bumped into you, but as I told you, you're a great person, and you're always ready for whatever comes, mashallah. And I appreciate that too. Lastly, Council Dr. Isaac Lubogo, if you're ready, kindly give us your last remarks so that we can wind up. Inshallah. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time, done by Ingnia Masha and the campus producer, MC Pilau. You can also follow our social media platforms. We also have a TikTok account. It's there. You know our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So you can follow our social media platforms at the same time. Doctor, are you there?
Actually, thank you, moderator. I've been hijacked by Dr. Magnus Opus, Dr. Kato Lubogo. Actually, told me to say something about the facts at hand. First and foremost, I'll start with Martin Luther King. Once quoted saying that defend your constitution before it's too weak to defend you. So what is supposed to be enshrined on ground is that we have to first put it on ground that all the political affiliations, all the political acts that are being, the personalities that we see, for example, the Mao and others, we need to see that all the essence comes from what we call the political parties that are being adopted within the institution. So the first thing we have to do, we have to improvise the solutions, how we are going to make it to be the best, how it's supposed to be moderated. That's the thing that I can talk about. Some also, I would like to thank our Councillor Julius, because what Councillor Julius has said and others, trust me, and also Her Excellency, what she has said, actually, I don't have any useful word to add on. Because what I think that I would like to say only that also on ground that the political parties, institutions, they need to be modified other than to be repelled. That is it.
Thank you so much. We didn't get to know your name well.
Okay, by name is Omohwana Dennis Watwali, the next MP of Entebbe municipality.
Thank you so much, Honorable Dennis, the future MP to be, inshallah. If you have doctor there, ladies and gentlemen, a few things about Dr. Isaac Kalubog. Is a principal Institute of Petroleum Studies located in Yenga. Is also a law don and a prolific legal jurist. He's a public speaker with over 25 groundbreaking law books and founder of Match, covered state of the art. You're welcome to give your last remarks, Dr. Isaac Kalubog.
Mr. Moderator, actually, Council has gone for a meeting. Actually, it's an emergency meeting right now.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much for being part of this. And just for all, you were there from the start. Chizito, Deputy Dean, Faculty of Law, Damnur, though you didn't say a word, but you were there for, actually, you were the first person to log in. And Engineer Marsha, thank you for preparing the technical part of it. MC Pilau, Madam Sharifa, Excellency Mariam, thank you so much. Mirembe Lona, you moved from far to come and be part of this. We'll appreciate. Nampera, I don't know who you are, but thank you so much. You've been on and off, but at least you managed to grasp a bit. Excellency, Badu Khairat, welcome. And we had the speaker, Jami Dananteza. I didn't see you were in, and yet you had to say something, but thank you for being part of that. And even Council Julius, plus Council Iga Isma, who is the former Guild President of Kampala campus. Thank you so much. And my name is Balia Afan Afan. Have a good day and a nice weekend. Assalamu alaikum. Bosiku Swipe, I didn't see my friend. Thank you for being part of this too. And next time we shall be more keen.